Welcome everyone to the Tequity Hub. We have a fantastic program for you today on IP workflows. I'm really excited to learn about this myself because even if you're not in live broadcast, it affects you in terms of some of the technologies and some of the strategies that are being implemented. So let me, without further ado, introduce our two amazing, talented speakers. We have broadcast engineer Carolina Santos, who is an established leader in the sports media technology industry. She has held the position of head of broadcast operations at ATP Media for the past 5 years. And during that time, she's revolutionized their distribution strategy. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. She oversees the delivery of 62 global tennis tournaments to over 70 international broadcasters, and also my household, which is a big tennis watching household. So we're very grateful for the work that you do, Carolina. Thank you for joining us.
Fantastic to be here. Hi, everyone. Thank you for welcoming me. It's my first time here.
Great to have you. We're also joined by Ling's son, who is the Chief Technology Officer of Nebraska Public Media, a state network, and a joint licensee that provides content and services through its statewide television and radio, over-the-air broadcast transmissions, and other multimedia platforms. And Ling has led a technology transformation of her own at Nebraska Public Media that we're going to hear all about. She has served 2 terms as the chair of Public Broadcasting Service Engineering Technology Advisory Committee, and she currently serves as a member of the Nebraska Information Technology Commission's Technical Panel. That's a mouthful. And she's the chair of the NAB Broadcast Engineering and Information Technology Conference Program Committee. So she's a woman who is very busy connecting all the dots for our entire industry, so we're very grateful to you for all of your time that you spend doing that. And she was a 2019 National Technology Leadership Award honoree by Broadcast and Cable, and was also among the top 50 women leaders in technology of 2022 and the top 50 women leaders in media of 2023, announced by Women We Admire. So, wow, we're really amazed to have such incredible experts here. Thank you, Ling, for joining us.
Well, thank you, Amy, for the opportunity, and so nice meeting everyone.
And you're going to get a chance to meet everyone because we always talk and then do a little bit of a breakout afterwards. So anyone who wants to stay and chat with you can do that before the time wraps up. So let me just dive right into our topic here. Starting with you, Ling, Nebraska Public Media comprises an enormous amount of programming, from news to sports to education. What made you decide that migrating to, a fully IP-based workflow was a good idea? And maybe share with us like what your biggest fear was or your biggest challenge and how you overcame that.
Well, thank you very much, Amy, and I really appreciate the opportunity today, and I see so many of my colleagues online today and from different networks. And Nebraska is a state network, as you said, and in the introduction. So when we decided to go with a migrate to IP-based workflow, it's really evaluate the global environment and also our local environment. As many of you already probably transitioned to IP-based workflow, and some of you may be in the process of transition to IP-based workflow. Look at the information communication technology revolution recent years. The content creation, contribution, and distribution. And from a consumer content, consumption behavior change is all related to this IP-based distribution. Now look at the creation side and how many content creation tools and contribution tools through IP-based technology provided to us. And when COVID happened, it's because we are in this bi-directional communication and provided by recent IP development. And we were able to work from anywhere and anytime and to get things done. And think about it, today we are on Zoom. And if back 10 years ago, we will not work the same way. And also the local environment, we are at times traditional broadcaster, and we have statewide network for television and for radio broadcasting. And later, because the availability, so we do live streaming and use the legislature sessions. We broadcast the legislature sessions and the hearings and also live streaming them. And we do have a mobile production truck and carry on some Big Ten network contract and also high school championships, etc. here. So the environment gave us opportunity, of course, also challenges. And so we look at the benefit of IP transition when we evaluate transition our SDI environment into the future-ready environment. The IP-based technology really provide flexibility and scalability and adapt to recent, everything changes so fast, in terms of a comparison to decades ago to 20 years ago, when you upgrade or refresh infrastructure, it will last for a decade or for 10 years, 20 years.
Right.
But now you just look at everything, it's just developed so quick, and look at the apps and it's popping out and for everything, and how to reach your consumers, your users, to pass on those, education program, entertaining programs to them. So we really want to build something with a core technology. You don't have to refresh very much for the IP-based, like say, routing switchers. And you only take care of upstream and downstream of that, which makes sense to us. So we basically made some decisions a couple of years ago, back to even 5 years ago, and we do face some challenges. I think many of you gone through the process, you probably encountered the same kind of challenges. Of course, I want to hear from many of you through this platform. So the challenges to us is how to maintain your existing services, and in the meantime, to updating your infrastructure. Forklifting is not something happened for everybody, and especially for us to maintain our existing services. And that is one challenge, and also the timing. Like we are currently in a process of getting our RFP out for our routing switcher, migrate to from SDI to IP based technology. And for production truck, we only have 3 month break and between the sports season and June, July, August, and the timing, manage it. And also the technology consistency. And we have a facility, we have so many programs and education programs, sports and news, and how to maintain the consistency between our production and our facility and the radio and the TV. I think that is another challenge when we're planning doing something to take into consideration. And then another big challenge is workforce and skill, workforce development and skill refresh.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in just a minute, so hold that thought.
Yeah. So the success, and Amy, for us is 5 years ago, we developed the 3-jump strategy to set directions for us. And at time, we based on what we have, the local environment, based on the global environment where industry is going. So we decided to implement a network management control system. This gave us opportunity to put all the monitoring and controls on a unified platform. So this gave us opportunity to consolidate some technologies. In the past, we have a different group people taking care of different things. And now with this unified platform is build something we can swap out southbound of equipment from it and without touching the control and monitoring system. And the second jump in this 3-jump strategy is IP transition, because SDI now we provide live streaming, and we provide web-based content, and we provide a mobile app. However, everything has have to convert from SDI to IP and back forth. So we want to build the IP infrastructure for this IP transition. Then our third jump would be taking care of the final stage of distribution for OTA distribution, which is the transmitters. And as you know, for television side and industry in US is moving toward ATSC 3.0. And of course, 5G broadcasting is in the standard development and is being tested throughout the world. So we also want to keep our eyes open on that as well. So that's our success. We set a direction. We are still following our 3-jump strategies, and it has been successful.
Wow. Well, and I can tell, right, even though I know your background is in engineering, that's an engineering way of thinking about things, right? To sort of strategize in the steps. So moving over to our other engineer, Carolina, ATP obviously has events all over the place. They're not all in one location. You're broadcasting from multiple countries, different kinds of environments and different kinds of structural issues that you have to deal with. So I'm curious, what components of your broadcast have you migrated to the cloud and why? And what are you doing to ensure, as Ling talked about, sort of consistency of high quality delivery, no matter what location?
And I think one of the great points that Ling brought up was COVID and aggregation. So that's probably 2 things that we've been working on since COVID. Our biggest challenge during COVID was moving people about. And how do you put a production together with hundreds of crew when you are so limited, particularly when COVID happened, on how to move people about, and you're dealing with all sorts of governmental agencies and players and associations to try and put a tennis event on. And a lot of the times we were doing it with no crowd, so we were literally just doing it for television. So the logistics involved were huge. So one of the things that we did decide to do when COVID hit, which that we had no choice, to try and fulfill obviously what we wanted to do for our broadcasters, is that we aggregated all of our productions into a single production center, which we're currently have just transitioned over in June to a new production center. But we split our production. We kept the court production on site, but we moved all other workflows, i.e. our world international production, editing, post-production, all of that, we moved to a remote production location. So we moved all of that back to London, where the majority of our workflows is located, which made it a lot easier in terms of the staffing and the less people traveling internationally. But then we had a big challenge, which was to move huge amounts of content, thousands of hours of live tennis, in a way that would preserve our high quality. And that is where we fibered up the majority of our venues. So Masters and 500s. So that was a total of 23 venues. And that was, that was done very successfully, again, on the basis of an IP network. and on our 250s, which we have 30 odd tournaments, because they're much, much smaller production level, we're actually doing a full SRT contribution for those. And again, that's done internationally, and we've been very successful, but moved away from doing satellite distribution on site from all of our tournaments to now a place where all of our contribution is either done on a private fiber network or done on SRT. In terms of what workflows we've moved totally and completely to the cloud, I would say our OTT platforms. Again, because we're in the event-based business, and it makes a lot of sense to be closer to your to the CDNs and to everything else. That is where we have moved fully to the cloud. Our OTT product in Tennis TV, that's now fully hosted in the cloud.
Wow. Okay. So something that Ling mentioned is something I really want to dive into here, because we are so focused on upskilling at GALSNGEAR. And, you know, when we talk about moving from SDI to IP workflows, obviously some of the issues that are tackled, and we can certainly answer questions on these if they come up, are latency and security and interoperability. I mean, these are all major issues. But I think the biggest challenge is workforce training, right? Because you have a lot of people who have come from a traditional workflow at whatever piece of the pipeline they're coming into. And so I'm just curious, I'll start with you, Carolina, and then I'll jump back to you, Ling. You know, how does ATP ensure that, you know, a traditional broadcast engineer, if you want to call it that, really everybody is able to manage your hybrid production model?
You absolutely do need to bring new skills into your team, into your business. So we have done that, again, trying to have a good mix of skills within the team. But one thing that we have focused on has been network engineers and people that have that multicasting experience. And again, if you have a workforce that is predominantly comprised of more vision-based engineers, then giving them the opportunity to upskill, and we've certainly done that, put together quite a few courses around IP and multicasting and networking, which has now become such a big part of what we do. It's amazing how much things have changed, even in a short space of time, something like 5 years. Now the skill set that we're looking for or that we're focusing on is completely different.
So you said you're putting together courses, so you're doing it internally? Are you bringing in trainers? I mean, how are you managing that?
A mix of both.
Okay.
We have very specific workflows and around the specific products that we use.
Sure.
So some we've run ourselves, and we've had a couple external trainers come in as well, when we were looking for something more, again, bespoke. But we do try and run some internally, particularly, you know, if you've got new people joining. It makes a lot more sense if you've got specific workflows and specific set of products that you use, which is our case.
Of course.
Then it makes sense to run some internally. But yeah, we do try to run external training sessions. Actually been running them every 6 months at the moment, just because technology changes so quickly.
Right. Well, and so Ling, how about you? How much retraining was involved initially, and how much are you still doing?
Yeah, so Amy, the workforce training and retraining with a skill and rescaling is really a significant challenge. I think one is from a technology perspective, one is from a financial perspective. You know, you provide a training and you bring somebody in to do on-site workshop type of training. So we have been applying two approaches. The one approach, of course, is a traditional type of workshop training, and we just had 2 days on-site training and facilitated by an industry expert, and with handouts for continuing learning and talk about the IP in specifics about PTP and the timing and how the pieces come together, what kind of differences between the IP technology to the SDI, the traditional technology, which was very helpful. And we also organization and support membership for staff like SBE and Sympathy membership. So staff can go online and take some webinars and also available content online. Another approach and we've been taking is, the training is one thing, everything talk about in the classroom and the webinar is helpful. However, the hands-on experience is very important. So when we implement our IP technology here, and our strategy is to test water and dip our toes in the water to see how everything works. That's why we first implemented our multi-viewer with native IP technology. And once we have that done, and we basically implemented PTP in our facility. And currently, what we are working on is we are working on replacing our SDI routing switchers to IP-based media over managed IP-based technology. So we still have a phased approach for our facility routing switcher, phase 1, and phase 2 is our mobile production. And then phase 3 come back, wrap up our facility routing, use SPI and leave architecture.
And just for those who are not familiar with all the alphabet soup, PTP, do you mean people, tech, and processes?
No, the PTP, sorry, I should use is position time protocol.
Okay, just wanted to be sure, because there are two different PTPs, both have to do with workflow. Okay. Position time protocol. Got it.
Correct.
And so for both of you, and I'll start with you, Carolina, I'm curious, what kinds of upskilling do you think is needed throughout our industry so that anyone, not just engineers who are in the hands-on, but those who manage them, have a better handle on IP workflow, on transition to the cloud, on what's involved? What would be the specific skill sets that you would look for in a manager?
Well, I think it really depends where kind of your focus is as business. It certainly it sounds like Ling is more focused on perhaps the production side of things. Our team is maybe more focused on the transmission side of things. So what we're looking for, but it is very difficult because technology moves so quickly. But currently, what we're looking for and what we're more focused on is a broad range of experience across different compression methods, because that's very important. Again, we support a production team, so I guess it's important that we've got that variety of skill that we can come to our production team and say, hey, you're trying to solve a challenge of moving content from A to B, and you want to do it as quickly as possible. Try this, or let's try this. So I think that's definitely been one of the greatest skills that I've been looking for. But also, networking. It's really interesting that we've switched the focus away more from a traditional vision to more of a network engineer.
What about you, Ling? What do you think the sort of key skill sets are for someone who would be managing this kind of workflow?
Yeah, so Carolyn mentioned about networking, and now just use my company as an example. And my team, has broadcast engineers and also has IT professionals, and IT services is under me as well. So when we transition to IP-based workflow, more and more is kind of like emerging the two teams together.
Yeah.
And use, in the past, ICI basically is a point-to-point.
Mhm.
It's that simple, but IP is not just say point to multi-point, but also relate to network and how to you do the VLANs and basically how do you utilize all different IP addresses, and now within our I will say our domain or our building is all private network, how to manage those private networks. And then going out comes in, how do you manage firewalls and open the ports, etc. is all kind of getting down to the details and is more and more relying on the emerging technology
Mhm.
between the IT and the broadcast side.
I see Carolina nodding her head. You want to add something to that, Carolina? Because of course you're navigating private networks and outside networks in so many different locations and different countries. I can't even imagine.
The delineation definitely becomes harder and harder. And the more you go down the kind of the IP world, particularly as you get into the production side of things, the more and more complicated and the more of a blur line you have between your network engineers and your broadcast engineers. It's very interesting. I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, with the challenges, and we seem like we're having same type of experience, and it's fascinating.
Well, and it's interesting because, in not the very long ago past, the IT department was like totally separate from content. I mean, I remember struggling with this with a couple of clients of my production company where I would constantly have to get like permission for the content team to use certain websites and to access certain tools because they were like, why would you want to go, why would you want iTunes to be accessible? And I was like, we don't need iTunes, but we need QuickTime, which was tied to that protocol. So, there were all these firewalls internal to the companies that had to be broken down. And so I think it's interesting that you said, Ling, that now those people are both working on your team together. So it's a unified team. That makes a lot of sense to me. So does that mean we're looking for people that come from the tech side of the industry to join our broadcast industry? Are we going to pick up some of those people who got laid off by all these tech companies because they have IT experience? What do you think?
Well, we are certainly open to the idea, to get a specialist and or people from the IT world come to work for broadcasting in the broadcasting industry. And however, I think the challenges is right there, and everybody probably experienced the same kind of dilemma, and is a little bit kind of hard now for recruit people to fill the position, the vacancies in the broadcasting industry, although is moving toward to IP-based technology. However, we are still a very small part of the whole industry, and the pay in reality is not as high as the IT realm. So that's something we have been struggling with and have been, look at the different avenues and to solve this dilemma and to deal with this dilemma. Of course, I want to hear from other people and on this platform, but I think this is a very good platform for sharing resource and also found talent.
Yes, I hope so. That's the goal. Let's pivot to the future a little bit and just tell us where you see. I know that you don't have a crystal ball, but Where do you see the broadcast industry heading when it comes to engaging with the audience? What are some of the new things that we're able to do, for example, regionalization and mobile and multi-language, and sort of how does cloud fit a little bit with that picture? Do you want
Well,
to tackle that, Ling?
sure, you mentioned about a cloud, and that is something, now everybody are looking into cloud and using the resource provided, because cloud, and one is accessibility. As long as you have internet and connectivity, you access to a cloud, and if there are tools and a platform you can use, then that is providing some accessibilities. And like Carolina mentioned about moving to the cloud. The regionalization you mentioned about, Amy, I think is really resonant with the viewers and the listeners and also users. And we are in the process and already gained some funding support our radio regionalization. And the future audience engagement, really, we want to focus on the regionalization. And now we are state network. The program is all the same for the east side of Nebraska and also western side of Nebraska. But the focus for both areas are totally different for metropolitan area and for rural area. So what we are looking at is to regionalize our radio network and to provide region-specific content and to enable us, the organization, to engage with the audiences over there. And for talking about mobile engagement, thinking about 5G and is coming. And 5G, the ultra low latency, ultra reliability, and is high speed and also machine type of communication, really open up another new opportunities to everyone. So XR type of communication from mobile and using 5G. 5G is enabler, and also compression system, advanced compression system will let us to get more content, get high quality content, reach to mobile users. So that is really something we are also looking at it. I think content creation now has more opportunities and to create high quality content and to distribute through mobile technology. And another thing you mentioned about is multi-language support. So a project is ongoing and we are currently working on is provide a multi-language closed captioning. And now AI-aided closed captioning solution is available. So we are basically deploying it. We hope to get it running soon, and we targeted for supporting the 2024 legislature session. But with a recent, the supply chain still having issues, so we may not be able to start the day one to provide a multi-language closed captioning, but we are in a process to deploy it.
Wow.
So those three are really good opportunities.
That's very exciting. So Carolina, tell us about, from your perspective, what are some of these opportunities in the future for the industry?
We currently focus, I guess from our perspective, we currently focus very much on being able to service everyone and more focused on the internationals. But we have looked at some of the elements around, multi-language support and regionalization, particularly for our OTT product. And we have done a few tests and a few bits for some of our tournaments around specific sponsors and delivering those feeds to, again, whether that was on a mobile app or around particular territories to hit a specific player fan base. We've done a few of those, and yeah, our OTT product is all based in AWS, which has allowed us to kind of have that flexibility of targeting specific events and doing testing in particular events. I think if we had a more traditional system that was more fixed, then we'd struggle a lot more to do that, some of those regionalizations, tests, and some of that kind of target advertising tests. We don't currently have anything that we're going to implement in the across the series, but we've done a lot of testing, and certainly moving some of our workflows to the cloud has allowed us to have that flexibility for sure. Especially in the events-based business, it means that you're not having to pay to put all of that infrastructure together, and if it doesn't work out, you're having to tear it all down.
Right.
You're able to just sort of spin it up, do a test for an event, and our events are a week based or 2 week based. It works fantastic, or this doesn't work and we need to improve on it, and then you can take those learnings into your other different events. So I would say that's definitely some of the advantages, is the flexibility.
Right. And what about the language opportunities? Are you able to do that, or do you already basically you have people already broadcasting in multiple languages, or how are you handling that?
So we currently only provide commentary in English. However, we have looked at other languages. The thing with us in terms of on a creative side of things is we like our broadcasters to put their spin on it, and we want to hear from our broadcasters, and we want them to make the product their own. We have again looked at it for our own product in certain territories. But we do put so much focus around our broadcasters that we very much want our broadcasters to tell the story for us, and we kind of provide the blank slate and the general content. But in terms of local voices, we very much like to work with our broadcasters to achieve that.
That makes a lot of sense. Do we have any questions? Nobody's been brave enough to put anything in the chat, but I bet people might want to ask you in person. So I think what we're going to do, since this is sort of wrapping up our chatting time, first of all, to see if there's anything else either one of you wanted to share about the transition. Was anything else you wanted to share, either one of you, that I didn't ask? I think I covered everything we wanted to talk about, but you never know. Something could have come up. Well, if not, what I want to do is, for those of you who would like to chat a little bit with our speakers, I'm going to just let you stay in the main stage room. I know that there's a few people who are interested in having a mentor, and a couple of you have talked about that, and we're putting together a couple of small mentor groups. We've had a couple of people volunteer to mentor who are amazing women leaders across the industry. So if you are either interested in being a mentor, and we haven't narrowed all the topics yet, we will send out an information collection form to get more details. But if you're just interested in potentially mentoring or being mentored, we're trying to do it in a way that the group would meet once a month for 3 months for about an hour and a half session, and then the mentor would also be available for some follow-up emails. So it's a fairly low cost of entry, so to speak, for the mentors, but also because we're doing small groups, that the peers also get to sort of mentor each other. So we're going to give that a try. So if you're interested in that, why don't you jump over and meet me in the lounge? So if you go to your navigation, you can either jump over from the map view or from the left-hand side navigation, and you can just jump into a different Zoom room. So that's where I'll be. And I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank our sponsors who've been so amazing to us all year to support the Tequity Hub, and also our live events, which we've done at NAB Show, at NAB New York, at IBC, and just most recently at the SVG Summit. So thank you to everyone who's joined us today. Thank you for our fabulous, fabulous speakers today, real experts here. And again, if you'd like to stay and just chat for a minute with them, yes, clap. You can show actual applause. Just stay in the main stage with them, and if you want to talk about mentoring, then jump over into the lounge with me. And I'll see you all in the new year. We have lots of programs, so make sure you go to galsngear.tv. You go to our events page, you can see all of our live events and our virtual events coming up on the Tequity Hub in the new year. Thanks everybody for joining.